Interesting time. Honeybee Lane.
Everybody, ready to chance for a couple of minutes? Ready to call the meeting to order?
That's all it's in there. Right. Mixed.
Is there a sign in the corner?
Just keep track of it too.
I got it.
I'll give you another.
Yeah, take a little 30-second nap here.
I move the adoption of the agenda with two changes. One is correcting the spelling of Vizdak, I apologize, and one adding the issue of Benton Den stores under new business.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minute, or the agenda for the meeting with two corrections. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Whoa. I move the following amendment. I move that at the time for public comment, we take comments on any issues other than oil and gas that are on the agenda. That we set an order of the day for 8:30 or after action on the Vizdak subdivision, whichever is later, to hear from the solicitor. And that we set a second period of public comment not to exceed 30 minutes for after we deal with requests for zoning changes on the agenda.
Say that again.
That again,
Yeah.
well, how much of it? The whole thing?
No, just shorten it up and tell me really what you want to do.
I want to only take comments on agenda items other than oil and gas right now.
In the first 30 minutes.
Well, hopefully it won't take that long,
Okay.
but.
And then?
And then have an order of the day at either 8:30 or after we deal with the Vizdak subdivision,
other-
whichever is later, to hear from the solicitor.
Okay.
Planning to come at 8:30.
Okay.
And then after we get through the zoning changes 1 and 2,
Yeah.
that we have another period of public comment not to exceed 30 minutes to hear about oil and gas.
Do you know what the solicitor's topic is?
He is going to, if he sent emails today, that you all may or may not have gotten, responding to various questions that I asked him late, and also, responding to questions dealing with oil and gas.
Okay,
So
but none of
there's
that's gonna
things
have
that-
anything to do with first public comment period.
correct.
Okay.
Well, there's some stuff tied to wedding barns that's in there.
Okay. Fair enough.
I will second your motion.
So a motion and second to the amendment adjustment, the agenda adjustment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it.
Now we need to vote on the main motion as amended.
The addition.
Okay, we need to vote on them.
We just amended the docket, now we
just
have to
amended
vote on the
it, now we have
docket.
to vote on it, okay, sorry about that. All right. All in favor of, the amended amended
Or,
docket?
excuse me, agenda.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so,
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, good enough. Okay, we've had a chance, the minutes have been passed out. Have we had a chance to, look them over?
Wait a minute.
I didn't see any minutes.
I didn't see him, it's here, there's one.
They made it partway down the.
Yeah, they didn't make it to, okay, hang on a second. Okay.
We have a motion to, accept the minutes.
I'll move.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the previous meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it.
is there anybody who did not get the solicitors? Well, actually, I don't know now that I think about it, who this was sent to, whether.
It wasn't today, it was yesterday.
None of you got the wedding, his comments on the wedding barn questions? Okay, I have one copy, so we can pass it around, and he'll talk about it, I'm sure, so I don't know that it's, a big deal before then. We should just note for the record, that the, sewage enforcement officer signed off on the, Byler subdivision, and so I signed it. You have the thing from the solicitor, I don't think it needs to go in the minutes, and as I say, he'll comment on that, so I don't know that it's crucial that we all read it. I will say he was gracious in responding, because I forgot until yesterday that I needed to ask him those questions. And so he responded today. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, we're up to, comments from the public other than on oil and gas.
So the oil and gas, oil and gas, oil and gas. I'm assuming that's, proximity of wells to residents, I assume that would be oil and gas. And oil and gas.
Okay,
Apparently nobody wants to talk about anything else.
okay. How is the sign-up sheet coming?
Just back here.
If we've gotten it all around, if you could pass it back up, please. So I guess we're at the Vizdak subdivision, and I think somebody said there was somebody here from Taylor Engineering. That's kind of ominous.
Two for the price of one. This one? Could you give your name, Mr. Taylor?
Craig Russo.
Levi Fiesel.
But you're not gonna make it. Good call. Very good call. Thank you very much. Whose pen that is?
I think that's, correct.
Can you ask them to explain this, because I read the paperwork and, it is not immediately obvious to me what's happening.
Could you guys explain what's going on?
Yes. So lot number one includes on the plan, lot number one,
Can you
lot
come
number
up
six.
with
Come on up here. Show what's going on here.
I'm too old to see these little numbers.
This might help a little bit, this one's highlighted. So lot number one previously included lot number one, lot number six, and lot number three. And lot number two was lot number two, lot number five, and lot number four. Mr. Vizdag's proposing creating one new building lot, which would be lot number six. And in order to keep the, appropriate lot size, he is adding lot number three to lot number two. Lot number five is being added to lot number one, and lot number four is being added to lot number six. So, in essence, lot numbers 3, 4, and 5 are just side yard additions to the 3 lots. So in the end, it'll only be 3 lots, 1, 2, and 6.
Okay, so current lot two includes 4 and 5, 3 and 5, 4 and 5.
4 and 5.
Couldn't it be done with just a boundary?
The current lot one
5 is right here.
includes 3 and 6.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
These little things are
And
highlighted.
so you end up creating one new lot and then doing
Pretty much,
2
lot
lot
line.
line
Yes,
adjustments.
there's just lot line adjustments. And then there's a 10-foot sanitary sewer easement to, supply public sewer to lot number 6. And lot number 6 will have, on-lot water.
Actually, there's 3 lot line adjustments, or
Yeah,
3, 4, and
yeah.
5.
3, 4, and 5, sorry.
Was 4 part of 2 before?
4 was previously part of lot number 2, yes.
That's going to lot 6.
Yes.
Wind up with 1.93.
This is on one fifty, so
You
you're
have,
fine, right? So pretty
Two.
close.
2.18, so
But call us up on
1 acre.
that.
2
lot
gains,
On the-
3
on
and
the
loses
side,
5,
150.
right?
Just past the line.
2 gains 3 and loses 4 and
4
5.
and 5. And 1 gains,
So it's making
5.
3 more
And
sensible.
loses
It makes sense.
6.
loses,
Loses
Oh,
6
yeah.
and 3.
Yeah, I'm surprised this is the same amount.
Okay, so 3 would go all the way down to that point right there.
Yes.
but lot 1 has on-lot sewage.
On-lot sewage and on-lot water.
Okay.
And lot 2 has public sewer and on-lot water.
And this lot will have,
Public sewer, on-lot water through means of the 10-foot sanitary sewer easement. We extended
that's what this hash line is.
Yes, we extended it to here because we're not sure whereabouts Mr. Vizdak plans to build a house on lot number 6. So if we plan to build it closer to the front, we would still be able to get into the easement.
How does one lot have, public sewer?
I'm not answering.
Been down for a long time. If
it's probably been there for,
Just curious, cause I thought the sewer. went
Yeah,
down
but
that
if the
far.
sewer line came up there, maybe it sits far enough back that they didn't
Maybe
have
they
to
didn't, they weren't
connect.
dashed, that's right. That's a city code.
If you recall, it also had something to do with, the fact that it was lower than the sewer or something
I'm not
up in your
sure.
high.
It doesn't, it's not
Yeah.
relevant to this case.
So this is,
This makes sense.
Okay, what they didn't include in the county comp, so it's time they filed. These are paid. What they didn't include is because this lot is being hived off, there still has to be an inspection for lot one. But I did see something in there that y'all were requesting some sort of a waiver. Is that right?
I waiver for,
What kind of inspection?
If you're hiving land off of a lot that has on-lot sewage, the SEO has to inspect it to
sewage.
demonstrate that you don't need that land for the sewage system.
Okay.
And I thought there's a non-building waiver, here's the packet. There's a non-building waiver in here that says something. Yeah, lots 3, 4, and 5 are non-building lots, but we don't have the SEO's signature. I couldn't find it on either copy. And I assume unless you all have you have a planning waiver, but that's to approve the public sewage for lot 6.
yes,
So my understanding is that the SEO has to sign off on the fact that land is being taken from lot 1 and isn't needed for that on-lot sewage system. So those are the two things I don't see,
okay,
is the SEO's signature and if he has to sign off on that.
okay.
Unless there's some application you all have filed that I'm not seeing. Because the planning mailer is to demonstrate that the township has capacity to handle lot 6. And we do have that letter somewhere.
Yes, that letter's in there, we did get that letter.
Yeah, buried in there somewhere, we do have a letter from the sewer authority.
I know that's in there. As far as, inspection of lot, of the on-lot system on lot 1, I'm not aware that has occurred.
Well, presumably it would all be tied to the same thing anyway, because
Right.
he's gotta sign it all at once.
Right. So,
But as far as you know, he hasn't been contacted? Because I'd assume the fact that we've got a partially completed non-building waiver would suggest that somebody contacted him, but maybe not.
I believe he was aware of the project, but I
Okay.
don't know that he has
Okay.
inspected, no. May or may not be.
Can approval be granted contingent to that?
Well, not after the way Levi picked on me.
Sorry, I missed that.
Sometimes the original, site, when they built the original house, sometimes they had marked on there the boundaries of the sand mound on the original.
oh, it's here, it's over the sand mound.
I mean, but you know, the amount of property needed to
Right.
keep it in compliance, that sometimes they'll mark the boundaries of the area required to be in compliance, you know. On the original sand mound application, that is. So if you can find that map, it may even just show it on there,
Yeah.
that it's all contained within current law
Although
line.
This is good.
they also
You still
say
need
they
the
have to,
SEO to say it,
I
to
think,
certify.
because they're also checking for gray water.
Okay,
At least that's what
okay,
they used to say. Whether the new SEO is doing that or not, I don't know.
but you know, they used to put the dots around where it was.
Although a lot of that, I think, was more the spray irrigation.
Yeah,
And you're not asking for any waivers, you've measured all the distances, right?
Yes, this is all done.
Speed limits.
It all meets the
And,
township ordinance.
okay, we got a proposed driveway,
Yes,
it looks like it's far enough from the intersection.
there's the one here for lot number one, this is for lot number two, which the reason Mr. Vizek wanted to add this section to lot number one was to pull the property line away from the driveway, so it's pretty close.
Got it, right.
Yeah, this was the house that used to sit here.
Excuse me.
Okay.
that's fine with me, as long as the sewage thing's signed off.
Is there an application that's a part of the, inspection, or have we just contact them and request an inspection?
Yeah, I believe, the weird thing,
The paper,
the non-building waivers
Right.
are in here.
How that come in?
And usually when we've had these, it's a non-building thing, so they just tie together.
Right, I know what you're getting at though, since we're taking
Different lots
property
need
from
different
one, you have to
lots,
try to
right.
say, right,
I don't know if there's a form, if not, a letter
We're
would be
talking about
fine.
5, okay, fine.
Just a letter of accommodation.
I should find it, approving it pending that.
If you're calling us 5.
Here it is, here, there it is, hold on. Sliver. This is right here.
Yeah, right there, it says.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't imagine
Okay,
that
that's what
that
that
has
is.
any effect on this at
Oh,
all.
Oh, see, he's not gonna
I
have
know.
lots at the end of the day.
You need
We've
an
gotten
official.
in trouble for,
I think what I see,
Yeah,
I
that's-
see,
That's
is
county.
huh?
That's county.
Are you ready for a motion?
So he's busy writing something.
Okay. You ready?
This is all belongs to this.
Yeah,
This guy owns all that.
yeah, he owns all of it, and I believe he rents out his house,
Okay.
he plans to build his house over here eventually, possibly,
actually, Fred asked if we'd seen this before, we did, but it was years ago.
Okay.
Because he
Yeah.
originally wanted to do on lot there and it didn't work.
right, this has been an ongoing,
It's
right.
been a while, and then there was a cap on the plan, so we had to wait that out.
I got it.
If you wanna make this, you can write it for you.
I move that we approve the Vizdak subdivision pending the sewage enforcement officer signing the non-building waiver and certifying that the property being taken from lot one is not needed for the on-lot sewage system in lot one.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes
You
have it.
wanna keep this copy? Is
You
he
can
allowed to keep this
that
copy?
Yeah,
Since it's
that
out?
one's just not signed or anything,
Oh,
but
maybe not, never mind.
Yeah, no, that's fine, I don't think. As long as I have the county letter, a copy of that, then we're good to go.
So you got
All right,
it.
I'll go ahead and
And
sign.
then you'll sign one.
Want me to sign one? I'll sign one of these.
And so the way we work this, he'll sign it with the Mylar and one of the paper copies. And once the SEO gives us what we need, I'll sign them.
Just come
And
back.
then the Mylar can be released for recording, unless you wanna be good and wait for the supervisors to approve the non-building waiver. But, I don't know how fast the SEO is gonna act anyways.
Right, right. I know Mr. Izdak is pushing to,
Right, well, the big thing is just the SEO stuff from our standpoint, and then let your conscience be your guide in terms of that.
what is the SEO?
You would have to ask Tracy, we changed that relatively recently, and I don't remember the name,
I'm not sure,
because I'm a bit forgetful.
there's so many different ones, it's like keep them straight.
Yeah, Tracy should be able to tell you that.
Alright.
Okay,
do anything more for us on this at all? or?
not unless you have any questions. Today is the 18th.
I'm right, the 17th all day. Thank you.
Yeah, so, you can ask her on the way out
Thank you.
who the SEO is. And what's this? Hang on just a second, let me, nope, this one's not signed either. Okay. I got Bain some copies, none of them signed. Okay.
So this is, you're keeping that?
I'm gonna, when we're done, I'll ask Tracy to make a copy of it.
Wait a minute, I saw one of these in there.
I'm sorry?
Oh, these are all,
Yeah, so just.
they're all full now, okay.
I don't know where the solicitor is, he's supposed to be already. You want me just to take all of this into Tracy's office
Sounds
while
like
we're
a-
away?
Sounds like I'm there. Here, I'll do it for you.
Well, I gotta go ask her to copy
All
this.
right.
Is this everything?
You don't have any purchases, do you? All the fees, everything we're done on this.
Yes.
I know, right?
Yeah, I know, and I was curious about that myself, so it's, you got these guys. They go right here, they talk about Orange County Fire, Statute of Limitations contained ordinance number 5, 2014, which has been repealed for ordinance number 3. So I don't know number 3. What I know
Maybe.
is it's the August version of what we have, or you could call it the December of 2015.
All right.
That's what I was a million drafts. Yeah, so it's that ordinance.
Okay, I guess we're to the wedding barn.
The solicitor was having information on that for us, in theory.
Yeah, although he, the thing I passed out will at least get us started if we
Maybe
want
they
to
can.
do that. But that was good timing, you're on.
I'm up. All right, great. Where do you want me?
You don't want us to answer that question. They did not, the memo you sent about wedding barns.
Yes.
Generating stations, they did not get, I've just passed it down, some of them have glanced at it.
Sure.
And then whomever you sent the, oil and gas things to, they got that, did you all get
I got
those from
some.
him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think I just sent the wedding barn and
You sent it to me and Tracy.
just to you and
Right, I
Tracy,
didn't
yeah.
get it forwarded. And again, thank you for indulging me when I was late getting the questions to you.
No, listen, no trouble at all. Just give me a minute to get my documentation organized here. With regard to the wedding barns, I thought it was drafted very well, and I made some comments that you may want to consider moving forward. And essentially, I understand the concept with regard to adding the barn information, the definition into the zoning ordinance. But I do have just a couple other comments in regard to that memo that I sent. And must appears a lot throughout the legislation. I feel a little more comfortable with shall, but it's just a matter of what you are comfortable with, SHALL. If you want, I can go point for point with it. On number one, where you have add a new section, 100.6A, and you defined barn, I probably would wanna see a little more comprehensive definition, because we have the storing of hay, comma, grain, comma, et cetera. We can either keep et cetera in, take it out, or maybe expand a little bit with that definition. Additionally, at 100.72C, right before structure, I don't know if you maybe want to define that as a permanent structure, as opposed to something that would be temporary that you could just erect sort of for the day of an event. Additionally, at 800.41-5, when you talk about attendance and 200 people, I don't know if that includes the catering staff or the potential staff that would be at the facility or servicing the facility for the event.
Paid guests, 200 paid guests, invited guests, instead of people.
I'm okay with that. Additionally, at 800.41.8, under no circumstances may parking be on state or township roads. I don't know if you want to include anything further about that on, or private property other than the wedding barn site. Because essentially somebody could make a arrangement with a neighbor to park vehicles, you know, in their yard, in their field, in their driveway. Um, 800.41.12, when you talk about the owner of the wedding barn must provide bonded on-site security guards and also a certificate covered by special event liability insurance. I think that's great, but the paragraph up where you have township sewer enforcement officer, that should also include township zoning officer, that you would either provide some of the information on the restroom facilities and also the certificates of insurance. And I take it at 800.41.13, when you say no food would be prepared on site by the owners of the wedding barn and no sale of food or beverages is allowed in any event, I guess you're trying to steer it away from being like a retail restaurant establishment open to the public. So basically, it's just going to be serviced by a private caterer.
Mhm. And you had said something in your memo that we ought to put language in saying that incidental preparation tied to catering is okay.
Correct, and I think I supplied some sample language for you in that regard.
Now, would this here prevent, like the guests from popping out their grill and grilling up some burgers?
Well, you know, I don't think anybody may
Or
take
prepared
it.
on site?
Correct.
Okay.
And I think what we're trying to maybe govern with that is the unlicensed food distribution, because it essentially wouldn't be under any inspection from a health license or inspector's point of view. I guess maybe if you really wanted to address that, the owner could prepare food for their own consumption if you think that that's gonna be a problem, but I see your point. You wanna stay with a licensed, insured caterer, whether it's a sit-down formal dinner or somebody that brings in the smoked beef type grills.
Well, presumably, the language that we have would not prevent everyone coming from bringing a picnic basket either.
And that's another point that I was going to
Oh, sorry.
address. I mean, and you raised it was, you know, if somebody wanted to bring a covered dish or a dessert, I don't think there's any prohibition in that regard.
Is this operated prepared on site?
Now, the alcoholic beverages, 800.41.13.a, it says alcoholic beverages may be served only as allowed by local and state laws. And then says there shall be no sale of alcoholic beverages. There's nothing that prohibits BYOB. As long as it's in compliance with local and state laws. Okay. 800.41.17, when we talk about the inspection or occupancy permit, you know, essentially you're dealing with a barn, and maybe from its inception it never was inspected or never had an occupancy permit, but I think you would be safe in requiring your zoning officer, your building code inspector, and potentially the township engineer, having them able to inspect the facility. And when I talk about inspection, I'm talking about structural integrity, you know, flooring, things of that nature, that if you had 100 to 200 people in the facility, that there wouldn't be any problems with it, you know, collapsing or people getting their dress shoes or heels, you know, stuck in any wooden floors that may be at the facility. The building inspector is going to be able to look at the building codes pursuant to the state of Pennsylvania and provide a lot of guidance in that regard. I think if you do just an occupancy permit, I can't say for sure, but I don't think the barn would essentially pass for that without the appropriate plumbing, heating, cooling, and sanitation system.
If we have the township engineer inspect and something goes wrong, has that added liability to the township that we wouldn't have if it was only done by a private engineer?
Two points in that order. The township engineer is an independent contractor. The township engineer is not employed directly for the township, so they would have their own professional liability insurance. They would be separate, subject to potential liability. And the building code inspector is also an independent contractor of the township.
Okay.
So, and I don't wanna presume anything, but I believe Mr. Ferris is also an independent contractor of the township, although he is the zoning officer. So you would not have a township employee, so to speak, inspecting that facility.
Okay.
Any questions on anything that I may have provided tonight, or addition to the memorandum that I circulated?
Do you see any issues with, placement of this activity in R2 zone?
Just as a permitted use or a conditional?
Either way.
I would more likely not see it as a permitted use, but potentially a conditional use if you had the right conditions in there.
And right now, the proposal is that it's conditional in both R2 and ag.
And that provides the Board of Supervisors to review each scenario on a case-by-case basis. That also provides the applicant the opportunity to get the necessary requirements for the insurances, to give a presentation on how the facility would work, so to speak. And I think it would be very appropriate in that regard to have a review on a case-by-case basis and not just an automatic permitted use.
And then there were some other things in the memo dealing with wedding barns that you didn't touch on, correct?
Yeah, I think the one thing that came up is if there was a
Where's the
barn.
memo? Excuse
Who
me.
has a memo from
you finished with it, John? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I think the, third part of it would be the destruction of the barn. And I think if the barn which may have been damaged, or destroyed, that as long as the restructuring commenced within 12 months, that it could go back to that same use, that it was possibly approved through a condition.
You have any questions?
So you have any
Keep on the other side.
The only question I have goes back to the beginning of this whole process, when we basically began to construct this document, and I never got the sense that there was a real consensus on the board for R2 use. So, to get that clarification, I'll make a motion that we have an up or down vote among the 5 of us to decide whether or not we wanna use, R2 for wedding barn use.
Do you wanna do that now, or do you wanna hear the rest of what he has?
Is it pertaining to wedding barns?
No.
Well, are we gonna come back to this?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, the way my motion says he makes his report, and
Okay.
then we pick back up with
Okay.
wedding barns on the agenda.
Fair enough, I misunderstood you. Yep.
Do you want me to?
I don't know, are you planning to stay, or are you,
I was planning on staying.
okay.
I'm here.
I mean, we can do it differently, that's just how I made the motions.
I'm happy, it doesn't matter to me, just so we get some time to do that somewhere along the line.
Do you want me to touch on anything about the power plants and utility structures, or are you comfortable with what I supplied on that?
I think you ought to, both for the public and because not everybody saw this, I think you ought to just go ahead and walk through your whole memo.
Sure. There were 2 issues that I was asked to provide comment on, and obviously the first was the wedding barn ordinance that was drafted, and I think we pretty much covered everything that I supplied in my memorandum. And the second issue that I was asked to comment on was power plants and public utility structures. And most likely a power plant is considered a public utility structure under the zoning ordinance and possibly could be allowed by special exception. Although there's no definition in the ordinance, the common usage of the term seems to be closer to a power plant than the other permitted uses in an industrial district. And the industrial district lists light, heavy industry, corporate offices, truck terminals, warehouses, contractors' yards, building supplies, research and testing labs, and municipal buildings. Section 800.9 indicates a public utility structure includes a public utility building as well. However, you can make an argument that a power plant would not fall under the term public utility structure, since such a use is allowed in a residential district. And I think of a public utility building would be the type of covered buildings that you may see in rural areas that may house telephone circuits, in some instances, small valves, things of those natures that are conducive to water, gas, telephone. A large power plant potentially would be viewed as incompatible with a residential district. And the Board of Supervisors, and I misspoke in my memo, I said the Board of Supervisors, it should be the Board of Zoning, has substantial discretion in the granting of a special exception.
You mean zoning hearing board?
Correct.
Okay.
And it may attach reasonable conditions as it deems necessary. And the preservation of integrity in existing neighborhoods, has to be weighed with a conditional use or a special exception. But I do feel that the ordinance, there should be some sort of amendment to clarify the definition of a public utility structure, and or to clarify that a power plant or other similar structure should be allowed in an industrial district. without any type of clear definition, you run the risk of having a challenge made against the zoning ordinance. And basically, you can utilize the de facto exclusion argument that, we really don't account for it. Hence, somebody may petition to have it located in an area that may not be conducive to our current zoning ordinance. And Tri-County Landfill versus Pine Township, that's one of the cases that I cited about de facto exclusion, where an ordinance permits a use on its face, but when applied, acts to prohibit the use through the municipality. And I'll give you 3 short examples of this, and I don't wanna bore you with it. Years ago with the adult entertainment industry, a lot of municipalities did not zone for that. And the adult entertainment industry challenged a lot of municipalities, and municipalities zoned certain areas, possibly a swamp, possibly somewhere that's not conducive for adult entertainment, but they allowed for it. Secondly, you have the same thing with the cell phone towers under the Federal Act. You're required to have included somewhere in your zoning. And most recently, the popular trend is with the methadone treatment facilities, that you have to have that zone somewhere. So I think there needs to be a little more work, either one way or the other, with public utility structure and public utility plan. Whether there's enough room in the industrial section or not, I don't think that's something that should be of any concern at this point in time, but a plant of that nature may take that term to locate it in the industrial section.
And then you also, had the comment on, establishing a district without, a location. The last page of your memo.
With the de facto exclusion,
Different issue, the light industrial,
Industrial.
it's the last page of what you sent us.